168 souls lost, including 19 children in the Oklahoma City bombing, which was masterminded by Timothy McVeigh. He parked a truck full of explosives in front of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. McVeigh did this travesty because of the events of Waco, Texas, and Ruby Ridge due to anti-government beliefs. Today, we deep dive this mass murderer and the evil of Timothy McVeigh and his accomplices.
Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on. We thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Today, we're going to talk about Timothy McVeigh. And on this one, we're just going to deep dive it. We already gave an intro. I just wanted to clarify that, but we'll get this going. Early in life, McVeigh was born April 23rd, 1968, in Lockport, New York. The only son and the second of 3 children in the Irish-American parents, Norrie, Mildred, Mackie Hill, and William McVeigh. In 1966, McVeigh's great-great-grandfather, Edward McVeigh, immigrated from Ireland to settle in Niagara County. After McVeigh's parents divorced when he was 10 years old, he was raised by his father in Pickerington, New York. McVeigh claimed to have been targeted of bullying at school, and he took refuge in a fantasy world where he imagined retaliating against these bullies. At the end of his life, he stated his beliefs that the U.S. government was the ultimate bully. Most whom knew McVeigh remembered him as being a very shy and withdrawn, while a few described him as an outgoing, playful child who withdrew from it as an adolescent. He is said to have only one girlfriend as an adolescent. He later told journalists that he did not have any idea how to impress girls. While in high school, McVeigh became interested in computers and hacking into government computer systems with his Commodore 64 under the handle the Wanderer.
Wanderer.
Yeah, Wanderer. Took into from a song from Dion. Damascus? Oh, the Wanderer. The Wanderer. Yeah, okay. In his senior year, he was named the most promising computer programming of Starport Central High School, as well as the most talkative by his classmates as a joke, as he did not speak much. But he really relatively poor grades until 1986 graduation. He was introduced to firearms by his grandfather. McVeigh told people of his wish to become a gun shop owner. Sometimes took firearms to school to impress his classmates. He became intensely interested in guns rights, as well as the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. After he graduated from high school, he read magazines such as Soldier and Fortune. He briefly attended Bryan Stanton College before dropping out. After dropping out of college, McVeigh worked as a armored car guard. God, I can't say that 4 times fast. And was noted by coworkers as being obsessed with guns. One coworker recalled an instance when McVeigh came to work looking like Pancho Villa as he was wearing a pannier. Batinier is it's where they hold ammo across your chest and everything, which that back in its time it was very needed. Nowadays we have mag clips and magazine holsters. Sorry, mag clips. A long day. Magazine holsters were just, but back in that time frame, it was very much needed. Military career. In May 1988, at the age of 20, McVeigh enlisted in the United States Army and attended basic training and events and individual training as a U.S. Army infantry school at Fort Benning, Georgia. While in the military, McVeigh used such as spare time reading about firearms, sniper tactics, and explosives. McVeigh reprimanded by the military for purchasing a white powder T-shirt at a white power T-shirt at a Ku Klux Klan rally, where they were objecting to black servicemen who wore black power T-shirts around the military installation, primarily Army. Actually, condone both of those. Nowadays, it's kind of loosely stuff, but just go to show he's white supremacist, asshole, shit bump, His future co-conspirator, Terry Nichols, was his platoon guide. He and Nichols quickly got along with their similar backgrounds as well as their views on gun collecting and survivalism. The two were later stationed together at Fort Riley in Junction City, Kansas, where they met and became friends with their future other accomplice, Michael Frontier. I'm not good at words. We all Fortier. We're all well established. I'm not good with words. I do a job where I do a hobby that I more or less read off a fucking script. I'm a genius. McVeigh was a top scoring gunner and with 25 millimeter cannon of the Bradley fighting vehicle used by the 1st Infantry Division, and was promoted to sergeant. After being promoted, McVeigh earned a reputation for assigning undesirable work to black servicemen and using racial slurs, which shit pump. He was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, before being deployed in Operation Desert Storm. In an interview before his execution, McVeigh said that he hit an Iraqi tank more than 500 yards away in this first day in the war, and then the Iraqis surrendered. He also decapitated a Iraqi soldier with a cannon fire from 1,100 yards away. He said he was later shocked to see the carnage on the road while leaving Kuwait City after U.S. troops routed to the Iraqi army. McVeigh received several servicemen, including the Bronze Star, Natural Defense Service Medal, Southwest Asia Service Medal, Army Service Medal, and the Kuwait Liberation Medal. Now, just a little heads up on this. The National Defense Service Medal and Southwest Asia Service Medal, Army Service Medal, and the Kuwait Liberation Medal. All those medals right there just shows that you're in country at station. They're pretty much given to everybody at that location. It's pretty much just a resume of what you've done so far. The Bronze Star Medal, on the other hand, you have to do something outstanding to do. Bronze Star Medal is the United States Armed Forces decorated award to members in the United States Armed Forces to heroic achievement, heroic service, and merit of achievement and merit service in combat zones. Just a little headway. McVeigh expired to join the U.S. Army Special Forces after returning from the Gulf War. He earned he entered the selection program, but withdrew on the second day of his 21-day assessment and selection course at the Special Forces, telling other recruits that he had injured an ankle. However, in a letter to his superiors, McVeigh wrote that he was not physically ready. McVeigh decided to leave the Army and was honorably discharged in 1991. Not to say anything about this, but you have to be a special type of crazy to join special forces. They just to join, they basically treat you like trash until you give up, and they're adamant as selection in their selections to getting the right people into the special forces. Just a heads up. I mean, like the special operations groups like Navy SEALs, Special Forces, Delta, Rangers, and Pararescue, JTAC, TAC-P. There's another one. Even the boat guys that run the miniguns, there's special warfare division in the Navy. They have to go through special transitions, physically and mentally exhausting. And they are physically and mentally exhausting. And you have to be a tough son of a bitch to go through those. Just a little FYI. Just to show how McVeigh was weak. McVeigh wrote a letter to local newspaper complaining about taxes in 1992. He wrote, "Taxes are a joke, regardless of what political candidate promises they will increase. More taxes are always the answer to government mismanagement. This is they messed up. We suffer. Taxes are restricting catastrophic levels and no slowdown in sight. It's a civil war and implemented. What? Implemented.
Imminent.
Imminent. Civil war imminent. Okay. Is a civil war imminent? Okay. We have to shed blood to reform the current system. I hope it doesn't come to that, but it might. Okay, they kept on saying during interviews and everything that he wasn't crazy, but McVeigh also wrote to Representative John J. LaFace in District New York, complaining about the arrest of a woman carrying mace. Is this mace? Yeah, mace spray, the pepper spray. It is a lie if we tell ourselves that the police can protect us everywhere at all times. Firearms restrictions are bad enough, but now a woman can't even carry mace in her purse. McVeigh later moved with Nichols to Nichols's brother's James farm around Decker, Michigan. While visiting friends, McVeigh reportedly complained about that the Army had implemented a microchip in his buttocks. Sorry, that's just funny. So the government could keep track of him. You know what? This is where everybody nowadays, anytime the government wants to issue like the vaccine, I can actually talk about this now, which is sad. I couldn't talk for about 2 years because I wanted to keep this stuff going. Yes, I centered myself so I can keep this stuff going, and hopefully eventually I don't have to worry about that. But I guess this is where people started believing that the government would start putting trackers, like in the vaccine. People thought the government was putting government trackers into the vaccine. And I laugh at that. The reason why I laugh at that, because there's so many instances. If you can look up war documents that if they would do that with the soldiers like Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, all if they did that to us, we wouldn't have been bombarded by friendly fire on several occasions because they got the area wrong. I mean, there's a lot of friendly fire that happens, and they would be able to track us and figure out, hey, that's the wrong spot. We have it on our computers that the area is bad because our people are there. But I digress. McVeigh worked long hours in a dead end job and felt that he did not have a home. He sought romance, but his advances were rejected by coworkers, and he felt nervous around women. He believed that he brought too much pain on his loved ones. He grew angry and frustrated at the difficulties of finding a girlfriend. He took up obsessive gambling, unable to pay gambling debts. He took a cash advance and then defaulted on the payments. He began looking for a state with low taxes so he could live without heavily government regulations or high taxes. He became enraged when the government told him he had overpaid $1,558 while in the army, and he had to pay the money back. He wrote an angry letter to the government saying, "Go ahead, take everything I own, take my dignity, feel good as you grow fat and rich at my expense, sucking my tax dollars and property." Now, I've I've had this instance where I didn't get a paycheck when I was in the routine. It was my fault. I didn't follow the right stuff fast enough and ended up having to pay a big chunk of money. Was I angry at the government? No, because it was my fault. Do I not like taxes? Everybody doesn't like paying taxes. So McVeigh introduced his sister to anti-government literature. His father had little interest in these views. He moved out of his father's house into an apartment that had no telephone. This made it impossible for his employer to contact him for overtime assignments. He quit the National Rifle Association, believing it was too weak on gun rights. Now, by this time in 1993, Waco siege and gun shows. In 1993, McVeigh drove to Waco, Texas during the Waco siege to show his support. At the scene, he described pro-gun rights literature and bumper stickers bearing the slogans such as, "When guns are outlawed, I will become an outlaw." What they also don't say is there is a bunch of Nazi symbols and Ku Klux Klan and racial stuff on those stickers on this page that I found out on this stuff. You can actually see the photos. One of the news groups in that area did an interview with McVeigh at the time, so you can see him on his butt end of his truck with the bumper stickers and everything, which we'll get into that stuff later. I'll be big winded on this if I don't keep it compressed. I'm sorry about that. For the 5 months following the Waco siege, McVeigh worked at a gun show and handed out free cards printed with Lon Hurrick's name. Lon Hurrick is an American former Federal Bureau of Investigation Hostage Rescue Team sniper and former U.S. Army officer who was involved in the 1992 Ruby Ridge standoff and the 1993 Waco siege. Holy crap. He was also in 1997 Hirochi. Lon was charged with manslaughter for killing Vicky Weaver at Ruby Ridge, but the charges were later dropped. Okay. Wow, I learn something new every day. In the hopes that somebody in the Patriot movement would assassinate this sharpshooter. Hiroshi, we are suggesting that what comes around goes around. Oh, sorry. McVeigh wrote hate mail to Hiroshi, suggesting that what comes around goes around. McVeigh later considered putting aside his plan to target the Murray building to target Hiroshi's or a member of his family instead. He really hated that guy. McVeigh became a fixture on the gun show circuit, traveling to 40 states, visiting about 80 gun shows. He found that the further west he went, the more anti-government statement he encountered. At least until he got to what he called the People's Socialist Republic of California. McVeigh sold survival items and copies of Turner Diaries, one author said. In the gun show culture, McVeigh found a home, though he remained skeptical of some of the most extreme ideas being branded it around. He liked talking to people there about the United Nations, the federal government, and the possible threats to American liberty. McVeigh had a road atlas with hand-drawn designations of most likely places for nuclear attacks and considered buying property in Sigmund, Arizona, which he determined to be a nuclear-free zone. I'm trying to think. I think we dropped a couple of bombs in Arizona for testing. I know we have a lot of them in Nevada, but I don't know in Arizona. As much knowledge as I've gained throughout my life, the weird stuff still comes up. He lived in Mitchell Frontier in Kingsman, Arizona, and he lived with Michael Frontier in Kingsman, Arizona. And the two became very close friends and best man at Frontier's wedding. McVeigh experimented with cannabis and meth. After first researching their effects in the encyclopedia, methamphetamines. There we go. Right words. Why is it fucking white supremacists go to meth? I mean, seriously. Look at it. I mean, I know the Nazis made meth, but why? That's if you look at like most white supremacists, their first go-to drug is meth. It's man. Okay. In April 1993, McVeigh headed for a farm in Michigan where former roommate Terry Nichols lived. In between watching coverage of the Waco siege on television, Nichols and his brother began teaching McVeigh how to make explosives by combining household chemicals into plastic jugs. The destruction of Waco compound enraged McVeigh and convinced him that it was time to take action. He was particularly angered by the government's use of CS gas on women and children, which CS gas isn't harmful. It sucks, but it's not harmful. He had been exposed to gas as part of a military training and familiar with its effects. And again, it sucks. Well, you'll still live. Unless you have asthma, then it really, really sucks. They actually take precautions with people with asthma. The disappearance of certain evidence, such as bullet-ridden, steel-reinforced front door to the complex, led him to suspect a cover-up. McVeigh anti-government rhetoric became more radical. He began sell bureaus of alcohol and tobacco and experiencing explosive hats ridden with bullet holes and a flare gun that he said shot down an ATF helicopter. He produced videos detailing the government's actions at Waco and handed out pamphlets with titles such as U.S. government initiate open warfare against the American people, and Waco shootout invokes memories of Warsaw 43. Which Warsaw 43? Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was a 1943 act of Jewish resistance. Okay. Warsaw Ghetto and Germany occupied Poland during World War II, opposed Nazi Germany finally effort to transport the remaining ghetto populations to Munich. Death camps. Okay. He began changing his answering machine screening every couple of weeks to various quotes by Patrick Henry, such as "Give me liberty or give me death." Began experimenting with making pipe bombs and other small experimental devices. Government imposed new firearms restrictions in 1994, which McVeigh believed threatened his livelihood. McVeigh disassociated himself from his boyhood friend Steve Hodge by sending him a 23-page farewell letter. He proclaimed his devotion to the United States Declaration of Independence, explaining in detail what each sentence meant to him. McVeigh declared that those who betray or subvert the Constitution are guilty of section or treason, are domestic enemies, and will be punished accordingly. It also stands to reason that anyone who sympathizes with the enemy or gives aids or comfort to said enemy is likely guilty. I have sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will. And I will because not only do I swear, but I believe in what I stand in for, every bit of my heart, soul, and being. I know in my heart that I am right in my struggle. Steve, I have come to peace with myself, my God, and my cause. Blood will flow in the street. Steve, good versus evil, free man versus socialist wannabe slaves. Pray it is not your blood, my friend. McVeigh felt the need to personally reconsider sites for rumored conspiracies. He visited Area 51 in order to defy government restrictions on photography and went to Gulfport, Mississippi to determine the variously of rumors about United Nations operations. These turned out to be false. The Russian vehicles on the site were being configured for use for UN-sponsored humanitarian aid efforts. Around this time, McVeigh and Nichols began making bulk purchases of amino. I'm gonna have to do this with this first word. No, people.
Ammonium.
Ammonium nitrate, an agricultural fertilizer for resale to survivalists, since rumors were circulating that the government is preparing to ban it. McVeigh used Frontier as his plan to blow up the federal building, but Frontier declined to participate. Frontier also told his wife about the plans. McVeigh composed 2 letters to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. The first titled Constitution Defenders, and the second ATF read. He denounced the government officials as fascist tyrants and stormtroopers, and warned ATF, all you tyrannical motherfuckers will swing in the wind one day for your treasonous acts against the Constitution of the United States. Remember, Nuremberg war trials. McVeigh also wrote a letter to recruit a customer named Steve Colbert. A man with nothing left to lose is a very dangerous man, and his energy, anger can be focused towards a common righteous goal. What I'm asking you to do then is to sit back and to be honest with yourself. Do you have kids, wife? Would you back out at the last minute to care for your family? Are you interested in keeping your firearms for your culture, future, monetary value? Would you like to drag that old six through rock, swamp, and cactus to get off the needed shot? In short, I'm not looking for talkers. I'm looking for fighters. And if you are a Fed, think twice. Think twice about the Constitution you're supposed to be enforcing. Isn't it enforcing freedom an oxymoron? And think twice about catching us with our guard down. You will lose just like Dagan did. Sorry, I gotta take a little bit of swig. That's good. And your family will lose. McVeigh began announcing that he had progressed from the propaganda phase to the action phase. He wrote to the Michigan friend, Gwenda Strider. I have certain other military talents that are in short supply and great demand. McVeigh later said he considered a campaign an individual assassination with inevitably targets, including Attorney General Janet Reno, Judge Walter S. Smith Jr., the federal court judge. Oh, God. Sorry. Okay. Who handed the Branch Davidian trial, and Lou Havarauchi, a member of the FBI hostage rescue team who shot and killed Vicky Weaver, and a standoff in the remote cabin of Ruby Ridge, Idaho, in 1992. He said he wanted Reno to accept full responsibilities in deeds and not just words. Such assassinations seemed too difficult, and he decided that since federal agents had become soldiers, he should take strike at them at their command center. According to McVeigh's authorized biography, he decided that he could make the loudest statement by bombing a federal building. After the bombing, he was ambivalent about his acts and the death he's going to cause. And he said in a letter to his hometown newspaper, he sometimes wished he had carried out a series of assassinations against police and government officials instead. Wow. Okay. Now, the bombing. Working at a lakeside campground near McVeigh's old army post, he and Nichols constructed an ANFO explosive device, and that is a ammonium nitrate fuel oil concoction bomb mounted in the back of a Reiner truck. The bomb consisted of about 5,000 pounds or 2,300 kilograms of ammonium nitrate or methylmethane. On April 19th, 1995, McVeigh drove the truck to the front of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building just as its offices opened up for the day. Before arriving, he stopped to light a 2-minute fuse at 09:02. A large explosion destroyed the northern half of the building, killing 168 people, including 19 children, in the daycare center on the second floor and injuring 684 others. McVeigh said that he had not known that there was a daycare center on the second floor and that he might have chosen a different target if he had known about it. Nicholas said that he and McVeigh did know about the daycare in the building and they did not care. McVeigh biographers Lou Mitchell and Dan Hemmerbeck spoke with McVeigh in interviews totaling 75 hours. He said about the victims, to those people in Oklahoma who have lost a loved one, I'm sorry, but it happens every day. You're not the first mother to lose a kid. You're not the first grandparent to lose a grandson or granddaughter. It happens every day somewhere in the world. I'm not going to go into the courtroom, curl into a fetal ball, and cry because the victims want me to do that. Jesus. During the interview in 2000 with Ed Braley for television news magazine 60 Minutes, Bradley asked McVeigh for his reaction to the deaths of the 19 children. McVeigh said this: I thought it was terrible that there were children in the building. Yeah. According to Oklahoma City Memorial Institute from Prevention of Terrorism, more than 300 buildings in the city were damaged. More than 12,000 volunteers and rescue workers took part in the rescue, recovering, and support operation following the bombing. And references to the theories that McVeigh had assistance from others, his response for the well-known line from A Few Good Men, "You can't handle the truth." He added, "Because the truth is, I blew up the Murray building, and it isn't it kind of scary that one man could wreak this kind of hell?" Wow. By tracing the vehicle identification number, the real axe was found in the wreckage. The FBI identified the vehicle as a Ryder rental truck, box truck, rented in Junction City, Kansas. Workers at the agency assisted with the FBI artisan to create a sketch of the renter, who had used the alias Robert Kling. The sketch was shown in the area. Lee McGrone, manager of the local Dreamland Motel, identified the sketch as Timothy McVeigh. Shortly after the bombing, while driving on Interstate 35 in Noble County near Pear, Oklahoma, McVeigh was stopped by a state trooper, Charles J. Hanger. Hanger had passed McVeigh's yellow 1977 Mercury Mercedes and noticed that there was no license plate. McVeigh admitted to the state trooper, who noticed a bulge under his jacket, that he had a gun and it was loaded. The trooper arrested him for driving without plates and possessing illegal firearms. McVeigh concealed weapon permit was not legal in Oklahoma. McVeigh was wearing a shirt at the time with a picture of Abraham Lincoln with the motto, I'm going to get this wrong, Semper Sic Semper Tyrannis. There we go. I didn't even have to use a speaking spell for that one. I'm happy for that one. I learned Latin a long time ago. Just sometimes it takes a long time. But Sic Semper Tyrannis, thus always to tyrants. This supposed word shouted by John Wilkes Booth after he shot Lincoln. On the back, on the back, and had a tree with a picture of 3 blood droplets and the Thomas Jefferson quote, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." 3 days later, McVeigh was identified as a subject of the nationwide manhunt. On August 10th, 1995, McVeigh was indicted on 11 federal counts, including conspiracy to use weapons of mass destruction, use of a weapon of mass destruction, instruction of the use of an explosive. 8 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of law enforcement officers. On February 20th, 1996, the court granted a change of venue and ordered that the case be transferred from Oklahoma City to the district courts in Denver to be presided over by District Judge Richard Paul Matschitz. That's shit. Is that right?
Match.
Oh, Match. McVeigh instructed his lawyers to use a necessity defense, but they ended up not doing so. They would have to prove that McVeigh was in imminent danger from the government. McVeigh argued that the intimate does not necessarily mean intimately. They would have argued that his bombing of Murray Building was justifiable response to what McVeigh believed were crimes of the U.S. government in Waco, Texas, where the 51-day siege of the Branch Davidian complex resulted in the deaths of 76 Branch Davidians. As part of defense, McVeigh's lawyers showed the jury the controversial video Waco, the Big Lie. On June 2nd, 1997, McVeigh was found guilty on all 11 counts of federal indictments. Although 168 people, including 19 children, were killed in the April 19, 1995 bombing, murder charges were brought against McVeigh for only the 8 federal agents who were on duty when the bombing destroyed much of Murray Building, along with the 8 counts of murder. McVeigh was charged with conspiracy to use weapons of mass destruction, the destroyal of a federal building. Oklahoma City District Attorney Bob Mack said he would file state charges in the other 160 murders after McVeigh's co-defendant Terry Nichols was tried. After the verdict, McVeigh tried to claim his mother by saying, "Think of it this way: when I was in the army, you didn't see me for years. Think of me that way now. I am always in the army again on an assignment for the military." God. You know, I went in deep dive and they said that this guy was not crazy or anything, but he keeps on spouting crazy shit. On June 13th, the jury recommended that Timothy McVeigh receive the death penalty. The U.S. Department of Justice brought federal charges against McVeigh for causing the death of 8 federal officers, leading for the possible death penalty for McVeigh. They could not bring charges against McVeigh for the remaining 160 deaths in federal courts because those deaths fell under the jurisdiction of state of Oklahoma. Because McVeigh was convicted sentenced to death, the state of Oklahoma did not file murder charges against McVeigh for the other 160 deaths. Before the sentence was formally pronounced by Judge Match, McVeigh addressed the court for the first time and said, "If the court pleases, I wish to use the words of Justice Lewis Brinson's dissenting in Olmstead versus United States to speak for me." He wrote, "Our government is the potent and omnipresent teacher. For good or ill, it teaches the whole people by its example." That's all I have. On December 21st, 1997, President Bill Clinton had signed S 923, special legislation used by Senator Alvin Specter to bar McVeigh and other veteran convicted of capital crimes for being buried in any military cemetery. His body was cremated at a Mox Ryan funeral home in Terry Hill. His ashes were given to his lawyer, who said the final destination of McVeigh's remains will remain privileged forever. McVeigh had written that he considered having them dropped into the side of the memorial where the building once stood, but decided that would be too vengeful, too raw, and too cold. He expressed willingness to donate organs, but was prohibited from doing so by prison regulations. Psychologist John Smith concluded that Vey was a decent person who allowed rage to build up inside of him to the point where he lashed out in one terrible violent act. Vey's IQ was was to be believed to be 126. Now, Timothy McVeigh did die of lethal injection. Sorry. He did die from lethal injection on June 11th, 2001, at the age of 33 at USP Terre Haute, Indiana. Yeah. But I actually looked at a lot of the some of the interviews that he did, and he did not have a care, but he didn't want people to believe that he was a monster, which he was. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't care. To do this kind of act, you have to be some kind of derangement. Not caring about kids or even the most bigwigs don't want harms in the times of war. Sometimes it happens. It's sad. It's very fucking sad. But no soldier or anybody wants the death of children on their hands. If they do, then they're part of the psychos and sociopaths. But anyways, on a side note on all of this stuff, talking about anti-government establishments and what we believe right now, because we're in a state to where our government isn't as functioning as well as it should be. And I hate to say this, that's always going to be the case, where nothing is truly perfect. And it sucks to say that. I mean, I have a 1776 flag, the old glory, in my back. Do I love this country? I love this country. I've been to other places where the restriction on their lives is so bad that mean someone once told me that this United States doesn't really revere the LGBTQ community in proper regards. And I tell them, it's like, whatever you do not go to like Iran, Iraq, most places in Africa, because they will kill you once they find out. Most of the time, there's oppositions that I've seen where they tossed homosexuals off of a building because they choose a different way of life, which I don't care. As long as it doesn't affect me to the point where, gay man kind of raped me. Yeah, I would end up killing him. But that's because he destroyed parts of my life. And that's how I am. What Timothy McVeigh, a lot of people will praise him. A lot of people will praise the instance of Ruby Ridge. And a lot of people will praise the instance at Waco. In my opinion, those things were just ridiculous. In Ruby Ridge, the short term, I've actually done an episode on Ruby Ridge, and I've done an episode on Waco, and this is the last of them, technically from the 90s. The Ruby Ridge one, they were trying to get him to be a informer on white supremacist groups, and he did sell sawed-off shotguns, which are illegal no matter what. They're sawed-off shotguns unless the weapon is because you can buy a short-range shotgun nowadays, which I'm still thinking about buying one. Kind of don't want to. I like to have the shotguns fucking powerful as it is in short range, but taking a firearm and chopping it up, there's during the whole pandemic, as I like to say, which is another topic for another day. Me and Chris talked about it, or might do one day. But There was a video of either a congresswoman or a congressman's wife chopping up an AR-15. There's video evidence of her chopping it up, and because of that video, she took it down, but it's illegal. You can't legally chop up a weapon. That's what's the funny thing. So if you like, this is worst case scenario if it ever happens. If you go in and say your firearms on the bumper, I'm just saying the bumper, it's on your bumper, it falls down, you run it over, and it chops in half. Technically, you've done a federal crime because you dismantled it, even if it was an accident. Gun laws are, if you go in deep dive in gun laws, you will be surprised of how bad you will be reprimanded unless you're like a manufacturing. You're using like machine tools and everything. They're all regulated. Can you get like a short? Oh, I just said we can get a shotgun, probably around about 2 feet long. It only has like 4 shots. I think it only has 4 shots. 3 shot. No, four in the chamber. One in the chamber. Four in the under barrel. I think. I think so. Yeah, only four rounds or five. Yeah, five. I think it only have hold like 5 rounds. It's short and it's one handed, and it will take your arm off. Not like physically take your arm off, but it'll feel like you're taking your arm off because of the power. One, the power of the shotgun shell, how much powder it has, and two, just it's a shotgun. Jesus, I've my dad almost uh he almost dislocated his shoulder shooting a shotgun at one point in time, only because he didn't put it right where it's supposed to go, and it moved, and the power of the shotgun, and it is a double barrel shotgun. He almost ripped his freaking arm off from what he was described. He was in pain and it was bruised up for like days on end. But speaking on that, do the proper way to getting involved in your government. A lot of people tell you this: get involved your local, then get involved in your state legislation, and get involved in your government legislation. But you can actually, I do this all the time when I go vote. When I mean, there's votings on stuff that aren't publicized a lot of the time. Like I think there's a voting thing for May where you basically go in and you vote for certain either laws or restrictions or whatever the case, and you vote on. This country is by the people. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They always say is like, oh, the government's against me. You're the government. You are. The people are the government. We have representatives that represent us, are part of the government that oversees the rest of the country and of the world, state legislation, stuff like that. There's certain countries, if you go against certain parts of the country, parts of the government, they kill you. Mass graves. It's disgusting. Now, if there is a problem with certain, I mean, even with the case of Luhachi, where Timothy McVeigh wanted to assassinate him for killing the wife of Weaver. He was charged. Was he let go? Yes. Not all things are perfect. Did he have right actions? You would have to look at the case. He kind of didn't, I believe. Should he have been prosecuted? Yes. I mean, right now we're going into a lot of the because we have more knowledge through social media and stuff like that. The view that they are taking actions with people that make mistakes during their time in law enforcement or first responders and stuff like that. So there's stuff that's being done. Now, saying that, do I wish that the government worked like a well-oiled machine? Yes, everybody does. But you're always going to have something that's going to fuck it up. Like the deranged, mentally handicapped person that's in uh, some kind of office. Not saying who. And do I wish him harm? No, he's a depleted old man. It's almost like beating up a mentally handicapped person. Actually, I think it actually is beating up a mentally handicapped person. Do I wish him to get away from office? I am putting my vote in for next election and hopefully get vote him out. But that's the process. I don't agree. I agree with some of the stuff that Tim McVeigh said. In some dark regions, I don't believe that we should blow shit up. I don't think we should do what he did. Do we need taxes? In certain aspects, we could get away with a lot of social platforms. Could. Should we? Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that's once you had it for so long, you can keep on wanting to feed the monkey. So, but anyways, everybody, love you guys. Don't take down the government with a bomb. Love you.